Hello,
Hey.
hello, and welcome to Feeling Your Best Inside and Out. Um, I will kick off as people are dripping in. And what I would love to know from those of you who are here is why are you here? What brings you to the class today? I would love for you to let me know. I'm just going to share my slides. Can you see those okay? Yeah. Last time I did this, I shared my inbox. So, while you're telling me why you are here, I want to tell you a little bit about who I am and why I'm teaching this class today. So, my name is Louise Lewis, and I am a coach. Um, and I'm a coach who does lots of things and lots of things that change, but predominantly, like the core remaining feature that has stayed throughout is I'm a coach that deeply cares about people's well-being and helping people to be well and function optimally in all areas of their life. So whether that is mental wellness, physical wellness, emotional wellness, all of the different things. And the path that led me here started back in 2018 when in around the May, I realized the only part of my job that I enjoyed was supporting my team and helping people. And then that combined with my own personal experiences of stress at work, which ultimately resulted in a kind of catastrophic burnout situation. So I was signed off work with stress and I was off work for 6 months. And I made a really big and serious promise to myself at that point in time. I was like, I am going to do everything I need to do so that I never feel this bad again. Now, I didn't quite realize or appreciate how much stuff was going to be in that particular box of doing everything that I needed to do. But it has led me down what are we on now, like 5.5 year journey of really deeply understanding and being interested in and delving into lots of things in the kind of well-being space. And I'm going to share some of that with you today. Um, my intention for this class is to share stuff with you that is easy to engage with, easy to implement on your own, and is just going to be simple and straightforward. Inevitably, I will go off on tangents and throw other bits in because it's just what I do. And so my invitation to you is just just take on what feels good, just engage with. Oh yeah, I feel like I could do that. I feel like I could do that. If other bits you're like, oh, that feels a bit hard, maybe just ignore that for now. Like it's completely fine. The way that I've got this set up is that you will get a replay emailed out to you tonight and you will get lifetime access to that. It's going on a private YouTube playlist. You can come back to this stuff whenever you want, right? So just engage with what feels good, ignore what doesn't. For those of you who are just popping in, hello and welcome. I'd love to know in the chat, just so I've got a little bit of an idea of who I'm sharing the space with, is why you are here today. So, like, why have you chosen to come to a class? Admittedly, I know it's the middle of Mental Health Awareness Week. I'm just curious to know what drew you to this class today. Um, I love that share, Liz. I went to a healing session yesterday evening. It reminded me that we need to create the time and space for healing. Like creating the time and the space is such a big deal because it's so easy to do any other number of things, right? And I have a really flexible life. I'm going to be honest, we'll come on to it in a bit. I had a couple of days in London at the start of this week and I was tired. I have slept for 2 hours this afternoon. I don't mean like a light nap. I mean, it was 1:15. I set an alarm for 3:20 just in case, and the alarm woke me up at 3:20. I was out. But at the same time, I've hurt my neck and I could really do with an osteopath appointment. And this morning I was like, oh, I haven't really got time to go to the osteopath. She lives about a 3-minute walk in the village, right? So it's very, very easy for us to need and know we need to do things for our well-being, but it can be quite hard to fit it in. So what are we doing today? What can you expect? What is the plan? We're going to start off in a minute with a gentle somatic exercise, a little bit of movement. Don't worry, no one needs to get up. We'll do it in our chairs. Just to give a little nod to the fact that Mental Health Awareness Week theme this year is movement. And actually, what I'm going to do throughout this class is um, pepper in a few kind of different movement things. When I say somatic exercise, I trained traditionally to begin with in sort of mindset coaching, so talking about stuff. And then I added in, I did a certification in 2021, which looked more at kind of how our bodies also are involved in the whole process. I think sometimes we think that we're like a head and a neck, and we don't think that our bodies get involved. But actually, it's all connected. When we are mentally unwell, sometimes we get physical symptoms. When we're physically unwell, sometimes we get mental symptoms. Okay. And so I learned about the somatic stuff as a way of getting into some of the stuff that maybe we don't quite get into when we're just talking about things. And or as a more efficient way of getting to the nub of some of that stuff. So very, very gentle. Um, Group discussion, take part, don't take part. Don't leave to be like, oh God, she's going to make me talk. I'm not going to make you talk. Group discussion to look at what stops you from feeling your best. We're going to look a little bit around communication with yourself and others. Timely, after a 2-hour nap, we're going to look a little bit about sleep. Then I'm going to do a giveaway. So I did this last year and I really enjoyed it. So those of you who are live on the call, you're all going to get free access to one of my classes that's normally a paid class. And then we're going to do like a little bit of a draw, and someone will get a month in one of my memberships. And I'm also going to give away a one-on-one coaching session as well. So we'll do that. And then we'll see where we are for time. I will be here to answer any questions that you have. So any question that you want to ask me about health, well-being, whatever, I mean, ask me a personal question if you like. I'm probably going to answer it. But just know that I will answer honestly. So make sure you want to know the answer before you ask. So let's start with our somatic exercise. And I want to just do a little bit of a preamble into this because I think it's so important that you understand. And some of you will have done this with me before, but just consider this a useful refresher. So the exercise we're going to do is going to help you to sort of come into your body and feel grounded and present right now. And we're going to do something called orienting. Now, when we do this exercise, and it's orienting to pleasure, we're looking for nice stuff. What we're actually doing is we're counteracting what is often a lifetime of hypervigilance, constantly being on the lookout for threat. When's the next bad thing going to happen? Has this person got what they need? Is that person angry with me? What's going on? What was that noise? And most of the time, our systems are in this sort of slightly hypervigilant, a little bit of kind of fight or flight response. I don't think anyone on here is a brand new baby. So we've also lived through a pandemic recently with all the stuff that came at us around that. And what happens over time is the nervous system is just constantly primed to look for threat. We're constantly primed to look for threat. We're constantly out there looking for danger and what's going on. And we just have this constant stressed state. And so by orienting, what we start to do is to teach the nervous system that it can feel safe and that it can look for things that are pleasant and it can just experience this felt sense of goodness and safety, even if there's still a load of other shit going on, right? Because as much as we would love to control all of the things outside of us, we can't. I've tried. It doesn't work. So that's just a little bit of a preamble to what we're doing, and I think that's kind of hopefully helpful. So you don't need to move, you don't need to get up, but I would just invite you to get comfy. wherever you're at. So if you're on a chair and you've got a back on your chair, you might just lean back in the chair a little bit. If you can get your feet on the floor, get your feet on the floor. And even just notice, and we're not trying to make anything magical happen here. Now, right? We're just noticing. Just notice, even in the action of, okay, I've focused, I've put my feet on the floor, I've brought my attention to my back in the chair now. Just notice how that feels. Do you notice a change? Because sometimes actually it can be really hard to just sit back in the chair and let the chair hold you. Because we're so used to being so rigid and upright. And I have to hold myself. And it's like, well, no, actually, can I let the chair hold me? So I do it all myself. So just notice how that feels. And if you have got your feet on the floor, maybe give the toes a little wiggle and just notice how it feels to have your feet on the floor against your feet. And then, as and when you are ready, to the extent that your neck allows, hopefully your neck is not as sore as mine. I'm going to get you to just have a little bit of a look around the space that you are in. So this is orienting. This is just orienting to the space. So I always seem to start top left. There isn't a right or a wrong to this. You're just looking around the room, right? Essentially. That's the layman's terms version of it. Have a look around the room. And just take in the space. Now, there is a little bit of science to this because also when you move the neck, moving the neck engages where the brainstem and the spinal cord meet, the base of the skull. And this also sends signals down the vagus nerve that it's okay for your body to relax. So there is also a little bit of science in this. Well, there's lots of science in this, but there's a bit more if you want it. So as you are looking around, I would love you to see if you can find something in your space that is pleasant to look at. And if you're at a loss, hopefully you like river scenes and you can look at the picture in my background. But just have a look around and just see if there's anything that your eyes are drawn to that feels nice to look at. And when you find that thing, just let your eyes focus there for a few moments. And again, not trying to change anything, but just notice how you feel when you look at that thing. It might be something outside, it might be something in the space, but just notice. Notice your breathing. Again, you're not trying to change it, but does the breath change? Sometimes you might notice an emotion come up. Now, I've had clients before, the thing that they've looked at is a picture of their kids, and it brings up an emotion. But just noticing for you what happens when you look at that thing. And then, to finish this one off, I would like you to take the movement that feels best for your body right now at the end of this exercise. I'm going to give you some options, but you don't need to do any of them. So you might feel like you just need to shake it off. You might feel like, oh, I've connected in with myself for like the first time all day or the first time in a really long time. Actually, I'd just like to take a moment and I just like to give myself a little hug, actually. You might be like, oh, do you know what? My neck's really sore as well. And you might just want to give yourself a little rub or have a little stretch. Because the more we just let ourselves do the things that our bodies want to do, the better we will feel. Now, one of the ladies that joined my About Time group recently, she did a post. I can't remember if it was a post or it was just a message to me. And she was like, I'm orienting every day and I'm feeling good. I really like it. And it's such a basic thing to do, but it is so, so powerful because you are teaching yourself to find that felt sense of safety and goodness in your body. And the more you do that, the more you then become a resource for yourself, right? So you can be anywhere and the shit hits the fan, and you know that you've got a tool that you can use to just bring yourself back to yourself and the present moment. So there's not loads of you on this call. So if anyone would like to unmute and share, please feel free. Otherwise, I'd love for you to share in the chat. What did you notice in that exercise? And if the answer was like, well, I felt all right at the start, and then I did that exercise and I felt awful, like that's okay too. It's not like not everyone doesn't have to say that they felt better, but I'm just curious, what do you notice from the top of the exercise to now? What happened for you?
I went through a cycle of looking around and thinking, oh God, I need to tidy that up. Oh, I need to pick that up. Oh, I haven't done that. And then I felt myself doing it, and I was like, stop, that's not what you're supposed to do. And then I managed to kind of shut those things off and then do it properly.
Yeah,
And now
yeah,
and now I feel, and then I realized how tense my shoulders were. So I'm like,
yeah. Yeah, I love that. And thanks for that share, Abby. And I will tell you, we moved into this house in 2021 and we're kind of on a hill. And so I think it's just always going to be a factor of life that the house sometimes moves teeny tiny bits. And so we get these little micro cracks. Now, when I first moved into this house, Miss Hypervigilant over here, every time I saw one of these cracks, it would panic me. And every time I would look up here, there's one up there, and I'd be like, the crack in the ceiling. And then but then over time you just notice actually like those things they fade a little bit. I mean, the crack's still there, but the impact that it has. Yeah. Would anyone else like to share anything? Nope. Okay, so there's lots of different ways that you can do this. It's lovely to do this when you're outside. So if you're going on a walk in nature, just to take, it's very easy to go on a walk and you just go on a walk, but can you just pause for a minute and just take in the surroundings and let your eyes focus? Particularly letting your eyes focus on something that's green. It's a very calming and relaxing color for the body. Um, if you've got a meeting and it might not be your favorite kind of meeting, or you're a little bit concerned about it, doing this before and or after the meeting can just be really good to just help you kind of get where you need to get to. I don't have children. I have a lot of clients that do. Sometimes your kids can be overstimulating. You love them, but also they can be a lot, right? And so if you know that it's going to be an absolute barrage of energy and that might be a bit much, you might do this exercise before they get in from school. You could also do it with them. I think it's very child friendly, this one. But just some stuff to think about. So Louise is sharing in the chat, feel more grounded, felt heavier to the ground, the breathing slowed. Yeah, yeah. And it is just a nice calming thing to do. So, group chat now. What would you say stops you from feeling your best? And I guess I'm kind of almost missing a step here. What would you say is you feeling your best? Because I suppose if we're going to ask what stops us feeling that way, then we kind of need to define what that would look like. And I think it's very, very easy with high performers and perfectionists, which I tend to work with. So I'm going to make a working assumption, but hi there. um, that that maybe the best, the kind of objective of best becomes perfect and good all of the time, which is definitely not where I'm going. But I'm just curious, does anyone want to have a go at like what you would say feeling your best is?
I balance as being at my best. So being able to get work done to a quality level, but still having time for me and actually being able to sleep as well. So not not waking up through the night or have things buzzing about my head constantly.
Yeah. I love that, Louise. I've got lots of sleep tips coming up, so hopefully they'll help.
Yes.
Yeah, and the thing, and you don't need to take this, and I've only literally just thought of this, but for me, I think my working definition would be feeling my best is having the resilience within me to deal with whatever comes my way without it flooring me. So, like, have I got the capacity within myself to deal with these different facets without it negatively impacting me in some way or another? Whether that is sleep or Stephanie's saying being able to focus, work, enjoy myself, but also being able to relax when I'm done focus. And that's that thing I think you're saying as well, Louise, about having that balance. Have we got that fluidity within us so we can achieve what we want to achieve? But at the same time, sometimes what we want to achieve is absolutely nothing and we just want to sit down and be able to relax. Yeah. So if we kind of take your version of what that looks like, what stops you feeling your best? I'll go first. Crappy sleep stops me feeling my best. I can only half see Liz's cat in the background, but I quite like it.
I'd say I'm my worst enemy at times, stopping me feeling my best. Expectations that you put on yourself.
That's exactly what I was about to say, Louise. A sort of self-sabotage, a kind of, oh, I haven't done that well enough, I haven't done that, yeah.
Yeah, so like the shoulds and the rules and all of the things that we kind of put in place of like, yeah, great. Anyone else?
I think mine's saying yes to things I don't really want to say yes to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great one, isn't it? Because we sort of do it. And I'm not saying that you do it for this reason, Liz, but often I find myself doing it because it almost is just easier than the discomfort of disappointing the other person. It's like the people pleaser in me comes out, but then you've got to deal with it. Um, so Jessica's sharing, for me, it's also low energy. Bad sleep contributes to it, but there's other stuff too. Yeah. Yeah. And I certainly know for myself, I had absolutely no concept or understanding. First of all, I don't think I realized how tired I was and how much I spent so many years overriding and pushing myself. I didn't say this at the start. I said I was signed off work with stress, but I don't think I said what I used to do. So I used to be a tax lawyer. And I was at KPMG for 6 years and PwC for 3. And the 3 years I was at PwC, I was kind of doing day-to-day management of the indirect tax litigation team. So it was kind of a big job. That I never really enjoyed. And I did that big job that I didn't really enjoy for 10 years and really, really over pushed myself. And I didn't realize the impact that that had had and the damage that I did to myself. That in some ways, I'm still dealing with and unwinding now. I didn't have a 2 hour sleep this afternoon because I had a really bad sleep last night. I had about 7.5 hours sleep last night. And sometimes sometimes you just have to meet yourself where you are. And I think that's so important because we can beat ourselves up that we're not this or we're not that or we're not the other. But it's like, this is where I am. This is what I need. Can I give myself what I need so that I can feel my best within the parameters and the confines that I am experiencing? We're not going there today, but a lot of the work that I do also is like, what's the impact of our childhood and the parenting we received and all of that, how does that impact us as adults as well? And I'm just going to mention that because that is definitely in the mix for me. And it's probably in the mix for a lot of you as well. So lots and lots of things impact that energy availability that we have right now. We have to work within that energy availability. Anyone else got anything that they want to share? And so sometimes we just want to be aware of where we're at. So it's like, okay, well, the thing that stops me feeling my best is I'm really bloody hard on myself. So then you can see what your work is. It's like, okay, well, so how do I learn to exist in my body, in my experience, in my life, and be a bit gentler and a bit kinder and a bit more compassionate? And, maybe be the good, kind parent to myself that maybe your parents weren't, or maybe they were. It's like, how do we give ourselves what we need as adults rather than keep beating ourselves up? Not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. I'm just looking back. I had a session with a client this morning, and she said, I was just looking for the phrase she used. Throughout her life, she has been given messages, I have to be better, I have to be better, I have to be better, and nothing's ever good enough. Now, you're going to run yourself into the ground very, very quickly if your constant narrative is, I have to be better, I have to be better, I have to be better. And I'm going to put my hand up, and I wonder if anyone else would like to put their hands up. How anyone else got that narrative? I need to be better. I should do this better. Yeah. I'm seeing some nods and some hands. Yeah. Yeah. And you couldn't make this up because you can look at the next slide. So now we're going to look at communication with self and others, because how we speak to ourselves really does matter. Right? How we speak to ourselves and how we treat ourselves is so, so important. And I think sometimes we forget that there's actually always a really good reason for our decisions and actions. There's always a good reason. It's really easy to beat yourself up. Oh, I should have done this, if only I'd done that. I mean, blah, 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 blah. There is always something leading to the action that you take. And I deeply, deeply believe that we always, always, always do the very best that we can do with what we have available to us at the time. And so sometimes bringing in a little bit of compassion and a bit of forgiveness as we explore this stuff is so, so helpful. Now, a question that you might want to put in your toolbox that you could ask yourself. So when you find yourself saying, I should be X, Y, and Z, it's just to explore, why does it make perfect sense at this time that I fill in your own personal blank? So like really, really, really bring in the self-compassion. And I'm gonna do it now for myself as an example. So very, very easy for me to look back on my time as a lawyer. And by the way, so much shame because I was there being like the well-being person for the team. I'm like the one taking care of everyone, sitting down for hours a day, having coffees with them all, making sure they were all okay. And then I was the one that was signed off work with stress for 6 months because I fell over, right? And there was so much shame and there was so much blame and there was so much attack there for so, so long, right? But why does it make perfect sense for me that that's how I was? Okay. Now it makes perfect sense for me that that's how I was because I learned from a very, 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 very young age that it was my job to look after everybody else. I learned that if everybody else was really happy with me and thought that I was good, that maybe that would finally mean I was lovable. A little bit outside of the scope of this class today, but one of my core wounds is feeling that my mum didn't really want me, didn't really love me, right? And I went to great, great lengths to compensate for that. If I could just be brilliant, then people would praise me and people would like me. And if I could just be spectacular and I could just do all of these things. And if I could work my way up to partner and be all of these amazing things, then my dad would be proud. I mean, that still wasn't going to help mum, but my dad would at least then be proud. And it would allow me to do all of these different pieces. So it makes perfect sense that I went into a space and overgave because I learned that I had to be everyone's mums. It makes perfect sense that I overworked and that when people praised me for doing a good job, I took more and more and more on because I was desperately trying to meet these needs and these gaps that I'd had. And then from that place, I can bring in more compassion. I can have a good cry. I can grieve the stuff that I didn't get. And I can be kind to myself and be like, well, of course I overworked. Of course I overpushed. Of course I did all of these things. And now I can learn to love myself and be kind to myself and have a 2-hour nap on a Wednesday afternoon if I need one. It's not even a nap when it's 2 hours, is it? It's a full-on sleep. And that's what I can do. And so you might do your version of that. And there might be lots and lots of different things that go into that box. You know, for a lot of us, we had negative messaging about how we looked. And so then there's all this negative messaging. I'm too fat. I'm not muscular enough. I'm not pretty. I'm not this. I'm not that. I'm not the other. I went to a in-person event in London yesterday with my mentor, and she said the day that she caught herself looking in the mirror, she talked about this publicly, so it's fine to share. But she talked about the day she caught herself looking in the mirror and she heard the thought, God, your skin's disgusting. And she realized that had been the narrative that she'd been telling herself for years and years and years and years. And so how we communicate, how we speak to ourselves, it really does matter. You wouldn't speak to anyone the way you speak to yourself. You really, really wouldn't. And so it's just starting to catch it. And how do you start to create a kinder, gentler relationship with who you are? Because who you are is pretty amazing, by the way. We're not going to do it today, but if you sat down and started at birth and jotted down all the great things that you've done, all the people's lives you touched, all the great interactions you'd had, all the people that you left better because they'd known you, you would blow your minds. You would blow your minds with the stuff that you've done. But it's so easy to be like, no, but I'm just trying to achieve this next thing. I'm not where I need to be yet. So none of that matters. I don't get to give myself any points for any of that. Just got to strive to the next thing. Sometimes it's just nice to be like, sure, I've done some pretty good stuff. I don't need to keep pushing and punishing myself quite so much. So I'm going to pause there and just check in with how you guys are all doing. And also to give a space for if anybody would like to share anything that's come up as I've been talking through that bit. It doesn't necessarily need to be a personal share, it might be a question, but I just want to give some space in case anyone would like to say anything.
I have a question about what you were just saying.
Yeah.
About, I suspect that I might struggle to catch myself saying those things to myself internally. Like how you kind of, like I would, they've become so embedded that you don't notice that you're saying it, sort of mean.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I would say is just I think, Abby, it's about being just a little bit more of a detective and just starting to catch yourself, because you're right, it is super hard. The first coach I ever worked with, I was talking about something or another. She said, gosh, you've got a really harsh inner critic. There's lots of different words for the same stuff, right? So you've got a really harsh inner critic. And I was like, have I? She was like, did you not hear what you just said? But for me, it wasn't a harsh inner critic. It was just my normal non-challenged narrative. So I think it is about paying attention and just being a little bit more conscious, and then also thinking about, and Abby, we've never met before. Hello, it's lovely to meet you. But it's so I don't know anything about you at all, but it's also thinking about the experiences that you've had over the course of your life. Often we take on narratives from other people. So the things that we've heard about ourselves, but it's not necessarily our narrative, it's like other people's narratives. And it might not even just be about you, but other stuff. So I know for a long, long time, the voice in my head was predominantly my dad. I remember when I moved to this village, I walked up one of the roads and all I could hear was my dad being like, oh, but it'd be a nightmare in the winter with the roads. And I just started to catch myself of like, these voices in my head. I'm like, this is where Louise comes out as a schizophrenic. These voices in my head are not mine. But you're right, Abby, it is hard. It is hard. You just have to start just paying a bit more attention, I think. And I know that's not the best answer, but I've got nothing better. Anyone else got anything? Louise?
I've started to do a thought record, Abby, just in kind of line with that. Probably a bit of an overshare, so I do apologise. But when you said about your colleague or your friends, like in the last couple of weeks, I've literally been like told that I've got a BDD, like body dysmorphic disorder. So I regularly tell myself the same things. And I've started to do like thought records. So when I get negative thoughts and I become aware of them, I write them down, but then I look at what's the evidence of what I'm thinking and what's the evidence against it. And usually there's no evidence that supports what I'm thinking, and there's so much evidence against it. So like that's the way I've tried to catch myself, like in the thought processes a little bit more, because I'm the same. I wasn't really realizing when I was having those. So that's the only thing I've tried to catch myself with these kind of things as well. But it's quite difficult.
Louise, I would just like to acknowledge you sharing that in this space. And also, I don't think it's an overshare at all. I think it's a beautiful share. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Anything that they would like to say? Okay, so we've got communication with ourselves. Then we also want to think about communication with others and how others are interacting with us and around us. Okay, because this is also important and there's less control over this one. So if you have a critical parent or a partner or a boss who constantly or regularly or even sometimes puts you down, it is going to take more work for you to feel good about yourself. And who you surround yourself with is really, really important. So this is not me saying you need to not talk to any of those people ever, ever, ever again. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. Although, for those of you who might take that path, I did go pretty much no contact with my parents in September 2020 and had very little to no contact with them whatsoever until March of this year when I went to stay for a weekend. And it was very different and it was very boundaried and it was fine, but an awful lot of work happened between September 2020 and this March for me to be able to do that and stay well, right? Because sometimes there are people in our lives that it is almost impossible to be around and be healthy, okay? So I'm sharing that because you get to decide, right, who gets to share your space, no matter who. Now, it's really, really hard when it's your parents because there's so much societal conditioning about, oh, but they're your parents, oh, but they love you, oh, but of course they did their best and all of the rest of it. And all of that is true. And sometimes you just need a bit of space. You just need a bit of space to figure out who you are and what you want and all of the rest of it without their voices constantly there, okay? But this can often happen. It can often happen in a work context. Sometimes it even happens in a really loving, nice marriage or a relationship. And it's not like your partner's bad or doing it on purpose. It's just part of their pattern that they've got. And I say that as the person that did it. Right? Because my parents, I grew up with parents that just bickered constantly. It's almost like their love language was to attack each other. And so when I got together with my husband, and we've been together for 16 and a half years now, I just thought it was normal. Like I was the part of the couple that would like put him down in front of our friends and would like nag at him and stuff because that's just what I thought you did. Um, so I'm not saying this from this like pious place, like because I've been that person. I've been that person. A lot of us also learn that we connect by gossiping. You know, how do you connect in a workplace context? You bitch about your colleagues that you don't agree with, right? And so, you know, and so, but all of this stuff is really important to notice because actually, if you spend your day predominantly bitching and moaning, you're going to find yourself feeling quite negative. And so again, it's just an invitation to be a little bit conscious of who am I sharing my space with? What are they saying to me? How are they treating me? What impact does it have? Can I distance myself from some of the people that maybe don't make me feel that great? And or can I bring in more supporters so that there is greater balance and less work to do? Now, I normally have therapy on a Tuesday morning, so it didn't happen yesterday because I was in London. But my last therapy session last week, I can't think what we were talking about, but it was something along the lines of like people pleasing or whatever, because I know it is, or some stuff that I'd done. Oh no, I remember now. It was me talking about often feeling like I'm still 18, like I haven't quite progressed to adulthood in some ways. Like in some ways, I'm a middle-aged woman. I suppose I kind of am a middle-aged woman now. But in some ways I'm like I'm like, oh gosh, I actually might be a middle-aged woman. But you know what I mean? Like in my head, like a middle-aged woman is at least 60, 70. In some ways I'm like an old lady who's 97. But in other ways, there's still this like childlike quality of me, which isn't bad. But we were kind of exploring like, are there some development gaps there? And my therapist said to me, as he was talking through it all, he said, but you're an absolute pleasure to be around. He said, you are a pleasure to be around. And he actually said, as he said it, he said, I'm going to get quite emotional when I say this, because he also knows that I have my own thing of like, I'm hard to love because my mum didn't love me. Now, to have that level of support and nourishment from someone who's like, you're a pleasure to be around. And one of my friends in the village, we go on walks, and she's like, it's always so nice to go on a walk with you. It's like, yay, I'm going on a walk with Louise because I know you're going to bring this brightness into my day. Having that as my narrative and the experience that I have and the people that I am around is nourishing and loving and makes it much, much easier for me to be nice to myself than the many alternatives that could be available. So it's just been really conscious about how do you put yourself in spaces or with people that are going to support you and just spend less time with the people that aren't. Anyone got anything that they want to share or ask about around any of that?
Louise, can I share something that
Yeah.
on that? It's that whole thing about with other people. Sorry, I'm just going to shut the door for a sec. Because I had to laugh at myself about this. I was going to enter into, you have one of those conversations with your other half that you just know it's not going to end well. And I remember stopping myself just before the words came out my mouth, and I just thought, I'm not going to have this conversation now because this is only going to end one way. And I took myself off for a while, and I was just it was that asking myself different questions, and I was irritated by something that he had said to, it was my husband, it's something he had said to me. And I thought, right, but if I just go in with that, I'm irritated by what you've just said, he's got nowhere to go with that. And I asked myself the different question is, well, what do I actually appreciate about him? And that question turned the whole situation upside down. So just by going back and reminding myself what I appreciated about it, we still had the conversation. I didn't shy away from it, but we had it in a totally, totally different way. And it's because of some of the interactions that I have had with you that make me stop and go, right, communication with other people. I think it was you that actually said you've got to give the other person somewhere to go with this conversation. If you back them into a corner, don't be surprised if they come out fighting. And I wanted to share that with you because I had to laugh about it afterwards.
Yeah, I love that. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else got anything that they would like to share? Okay, let's look at sleep. So these are tips that you can pick at, not use. Disclaimer, I'm going to talk about supplements. I'm not a doctor. Speak to your healthcare provider, blah, 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 blah. I generally think these are quite safe for everyone to take, but if in doubt, go and ask Dr. Google or speak to your own person. So we'll get onto that in a minute, but I just wanted to share that. So there's lots of things that we can do throughout the day that set ourselves up for success when it comes to sleeping at night. Okay, it doesn't necessarily start at whatever time you go to bed. So one of the things that can be super helpful is to get some natural light on your eyes early in the morning and ideally also early evening. If within an hour of waking you can get some daylight into your eyes, you sort of set off the process in the body that allows the melatonin and the serotonin and all the different hormones to do their thing. That makes it easier for you to fall asleep at night. You don't have to go for a walk in the morning. By all means, it's nice now. It's the summertime. Sit outside. Reed is like, it's not nice here. But but Louise right now, but you're by a window, right? So that's like not the best case scenario, but it's like that's better than you sitting there with the curtains shut. But in a morning, let's say you get up and you make yourself a drink. I'm not adverse to having a coffee in the morning, but you might just go and sit outside with it for 10 minutes. Or like if you have a dog, you might take the dog for a walk or whatever, but just some kind of sunlight exposure is really, really helpful. So that's just one that's kind of easy. If you've had a rubbish sleep or you're feeling tired during the day, it's okay to rest. Now, I'm not expecting really any of you to have 2 hours in the middle of your day to lie down for a sleep. However, one thing that you can do is something called a yoga nidra, or often it's called NSDR, which is just non-sleep deep rest. So you aren't actually full on sleeping, but you're doing something that just lets your body get some deep, deep rest. I've got no idea where they get the stats from, but they reckon like the yoga nidra or the NSDR, it's like you do half of that and it's the equivalent of 4 hours sleep. I've not seen a scientific paper on this, so I can't yes or no, but they often say it at the start of the yoga nidra. Now, you can get many, many, many different kinds of yoga nidras on YouTube. They're all free. Some of them might put an ad halfway through though, so but hopefully not. Now, I have noticed recently, I've seen 5-minute yoga nidras. So there are ones that are as short as 5 minutes. And what I do is I just search in YouTube. I mean, I'm sure you can get them other places than YouTube, but we'll stick with YouTube for now. I will search the length of time that I've got or that I want, and then yoga nidra. So you can literally do 5-minute yoga nidra, 7-hour yoga nidra. And it's basically you lie down and it does a bit of a body scan with you. So like it'll go through the different body part that helps you to switch off, but it's a really good nervous system reset. If you find it hard to fall asleep, Louise, I don't know if you're a fall asleep challenge because or staying asleep. I will often put something on like this when I go to bed. So you can get ones that are like, so then your YouTube search would be Yoga Nidra for sleep. Because normally they bring you round at the end. So you want the one that's for sleep, because you don't want the one that's like, and now come back into the room. It's like, no, I want it to be asleep. And I've played around with lots of different things for this. So my mind is less active than it once was, but it still likes to do its thing. So I will often go to bed and I have like an earplug in one ear and then I have an earphone in the other ear. And I will set up like different things to listen to that just switch my brain off. And sometimes a yoga nidra does it. Sometimes it's actually something that's a little bit more in depth, nothing that's going to stress me out, but something that's a little bit more in depth because it really then distracts my brain from thinking. And I find that I fall asleep to those. And I will sometimes put an 8-hour guided sleep meditation on. So it's just like putting, like nice sounds in my ears all night. So that's something that you can play around with as well. And that really works for me. And Louise, if I wake up in the night, I will do the same thing. Of just doing something that just lets my brain switch off again. And you also, you know, you can get up and you can write stuff down. You can also have like a little word with yourself of like, this seems really important right now, but it's okay. You can do it tomorrow. Sometimes that helps as well. And it just really depends on the level of stress response when you've woken up. But yes, we might go over a little bit, by the way, if anyone needs to leave at 5 or whatever time it is in your time zone, Stephanie, midday, then please feel free. So supplements. I actually have bought props, you'll be glad to know. So, one thing that is really good for most people to take is magnesium. Now, I went to this event yesterday and someone was like, I don't really need to take supplements though, do I, if I have a healthy diet? And I do you know what? I wish that was true. But without going into it too much, because this could be a whole other class, they kind of fucked up the farming process, and the soil just isn't what it used to be. So we don't really get as many nutrients in our food as we used to, unless you're buying all of your food like regenerative farm organic. You're just not going to get the nutrients that you need. And so most people are deficient in lots of different minerals, and one of them is magnesium. And stress also depletes magnesium from our systems. So supplementing with magnesium can be really, really good. It's great for the nervous system. It's good for stress. It's good for inflammation. So inflammation is like swelling in the body. It's the precursor to most physical illnesses, diseases as well. So if you go to your local drugstore, you will get most of the time magnesium oxide or magnesium citrate, and they're both quite hard for the body to absorb, and they're going to act as a laxative. And they're going to give you the shakes. Is the long and short of it. So my advice, unless you require laxative, is to not buy those ones. So there's 2 different kinds of magnesium that are more easily, like bioavailable is the technical term, easily absorbed by the body. So one is magnesium L-threonate. This is just one I've got off Amazon. And then the other form is magnesium bisglycinate, which is BIS and then glycinate. Now, if you are feeling flush, this is the ultimate magnesium supplement. Now, when I say feeling flush, you only need like a teaspoon a day, but it is about £60, which is probably about $80 for the bottle. But it's liquid and it goes straight into your system straight away, so you will probably feel it straight away. I just take these. This is my husband's. So you can play around with it, but I wanted to share both. And then the other thing is something called N-acetylcysteine. So again, just really, really good for stress. This isn't necessarily a sleep supplement now, but it's just generally a stress relaxing thing. This is a amino acid that naturally occurs in the body. Again, most of us are deficient in it. It's just really, really good for most people's systems. Like when basically every client that I work with, I'm like magnesium, NAC. And then there's millions of other stuff that we could do, but I'm not here to overwhelm you. So NAC you can generally get in tablet form. I think these are from Holland & Barrett. And then when I was going through my very large supplement cupboard earlier, you can also get it in powder form. So this is a powder one that I got from My Protein, which is like an online thing. And then you would add that into like shakes and smoothies or whatever. It does have a bit of a taste though. So you might go with the tablets, but some people don't like taking tablets, do they? So if you don't like taking tablets, you can have liquid magnesium, which also tastes gross, by the way. And then the NAC. So that's just some stuff to think about, like how you support your biology with the sleep. Getting ready for bed. Turn your lights down. I'd say like no really bright lights before bed, because the body wants to be in that thing of like, oh, the sun's going down and it's time for sleepy time. This one is a do as I say, not as I do. I'd stay off your phone if you can. I'm a complete addict. It's a lifelong challenge. Or just do something that's quite relaxing. And then I'm going to combine the somatic exercise and the getting ready for bed. Okay. If you've had a stressful day or there's lots going on, when you get to bed and or in the night, you might find you're a bit tired but wired. Like your body's tired, but you can't switch off. Everything's kind of racing. And from a nervous system perspective, without getting too technical, it's just because your body's still in a stress response. You're in that kind of sympathetic place, and there's just too much stress in the system, and the body needs to calm down and relax in order to be able to sleep. And so what can be really, really helpful is to just discharge some of that stuff that's stored in the body. You know, a couple of weeks ago, my delightful dog decided to run off and tear through 2 fields after a hare into a road. That was really stressful. I ran after it. The adrenaline came in, the cortisol came in, and I don't run, and I ran after the dog, right? So I used up all of that stuff to go and try and get it. She's fine. But normally the stresses that happen in our modern day-to-day life, we're not using it all. It all just gets stored in our body, and then it's all just there. So if before you go to bed, it's all just feeling a bit busy, you might push into the mattress, and you can try this now. Just notice how it feels, like push into the mattress, push into the chair, or like squeeze the chair, just like using up some of that energy. Pushing into the desk. Don't push the desk over. But as you go to bed, push into the mattress. And if it still just feels too much, you can literally just stand there on the spot and just run on the spot for 30 seconds. Now, for me, by the time I get to bedtime, there's no way I'm doing that because I'm too tired. But actually, just the pushing can be really helpful. Even just pushing against the wall by your bed to just move through some of that stuff. It can be super, super helpful. So hopefully that gives you some sleep tips. Oh, I've got one more. I brought my prop down. I have one of these bad boys, which may look like a torture device. And it kind of is. It's based on the like Indian bed of nails thing. Now this is an Amazon acupressure mat. There is a brand, like the fancy branded one is called Shakti mat. I think this one's just fine. Now you lie on this. I put this under my neck. You can put it under your feet as well. And it really, really helps relieve tension in the body. So it can do the same thing at bedtime. Now, when you first use them, they feel quite sensitive and they feel quite uncomfortable. And then your whole body relaxes. And I've had that one for about 13 months and I just get on it and it's fine. In fact, my first hour of my sleep this afternoon was on that because I lay on it to like wind down and I just conked out. So acupressure mat might be quite nice. Just in terms of like helping the stuff move from the body. So hopefully that gives you some stuff to play around with on sleep. Please don't feel like you have to do it all in one go. Any questions on any of that? No? Okay, so let's do the giveaway. The first thing is, so some of you will know because you've been before, but I do, one of the things that I do each month is a class called Find Your Voice. And Find Your Voice is all about helping people feel more confident to express themselves. So like Liz, you said at the start, you know, the thing that gets in your way often is not saying no to the stuff you don't want to do. So Find Your Voice is really aimed at giving you the tools that you need to know what you want to say and feel confident and comfortable to say it. And I set that up as something that I would do a different theme on or a variation on a theme each month. So over the course of a year, you would have 12 different tools or things to go at around finding your voice. So I think, Liz, when you said about the conflict, so one of the ones has been finding your voice in a conflict situation, which I think is possibly what you were talking about before. So on Monday, the Find Your Voice class, the theme is money. If you came to the money class last month, it's different. So it's on money. It's why do we find it hard to talk about money? Why is our relationships with money so challenging? And we're going to do an exercise to look at your current relationship with money and how to shift it to be a more positive and healthy relationship. So those of you who are here live, message to chat, there is the link to the class, and I'm giving you a code now. That code is going to let you come for free. Those of you on the replay, in your email is a code that lets you come for £10 off, which is just £19. It's not an expensive class, and it's not because it's crap. It's because I wanted to do something that people could come to each month at an accessible price, because often this work is just not accessible to people. So those of you who are on live, use that code in the chat, come for free. Everybody else, would love to see you on Monday. So the class is on Monday at 4 p.m. and there is a replay. So if you can't come live, that's that. So how many of you are left? So we've got 6 of you on the call. So Jane, can you pick for me, and we'll just be clear that we didn't stage this, can you pick for me 2 numbers, please, between 1 and 6?
2 and 5.
Okay, so Louise, you are number 2. You are getting a one-on-one session with me.
Thank you. Who's my
And
lucky number?
pardon?
Who's actually my lucky number?
Hey, and Jessica, who I haven't met before, hello. You have won a month in my
Wow.
About Time membership. So About Time is really the space where, and I'll stick some information on that in the chat so you can have a look at it. So About Time is a monthly membership that I run. And it's really geared up to kind of giving you everything that you need to do to use your time well, but there's a real well-being focus in there. So there's a portal full of materials, all of my kind of burnout, taking care of yourself, well-being, body classes are in there. People that have looked into, I did a program before called Address and Unlock. A lot of those materials are in there. So there's a portal of loads and loads of different things to help you sort of figure out how you're going to manage your time, so that well-being, and then there's lots of stuff in there about how to manage your time, how to take care of yourself, and we meet every single week live as a group, where I kind of help and support the people in the space. And we also have calls every single Monday, which it's called a weekly reset, so it's kind of nervous system stuff or things to think about, so maybe a little bit similar to what we did at the start today, but on various different themes. So Jessica, if that appeals, reach out to me after the class and we will set that up. And if you're like, hell no, lady, I don't want to go, then feel free to gift it someone that you know that may be interested. Okay, so that's the giveaways. And now I know you've been asking questions throughout, but anybody got any other questions? Anything that you're curious about? Anything that you want to know about? Anything that I didn't cover and you're like, oh, but I wish you talked about this? floor is yours. Thanks,
Louise,
Stephanie. You're going. See you. Take care.
Does
Yeah.
it make any difference in terms of I was thinking about the digestion and stuff like that, because sometimes eating late at night, does it make a difference in terms of then trying to sleep if your body's in the process of digesting?
That's a very good question. I think it does.
Mm.
And I'm terrible because I will eat dinner early, but then I'm like, I'm an evening eater. But so what they say is ideally you would have 2 hours before you go to bed
Okay.
after you've eaten. A bit of a tangent, but Liz, you know this already. So some of the work that I do with my therapist, he does quite a lot of traditional Chinese medicine stuff, and a lot of that is looking at like foods and the organs and how everything works. And for optimal liver function, like your liver doesn't, like the liver is the detox organ of the body. It does an awful lot of work. And in order for the liver to function optimally, it needs to be like there needs to be not food digesting. And I think maybe I can't think what the timings are, but my therapist is like, you really shouldn't eat after 7. And I do. I will share what the experts say. And again, it's a do as I say, not as I do thing. Um, but I think you can just notice it for yourself as well. I haven't worn this for about 2 years, but I started wearing it's one of those like tracker watchy things recently. And it's interesting with my sleep because the thing that I don't get is a decent amount of continuous deep sleep. I mean, according to the watch, which who knows. And I think possibly some of that is me eating quite late.
Mm.
So I think you could play around with it, you know, you might just do like 2 nights a week and be like, does my sleep quality feel different? Do I feel different when I wake up in the morning if I eat a bit earlier? And it doesn't mean that you can't have a little snack before bed. It's just like,
All full meals,
Right.
things like that.
Yeah,
Isn't it? Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Anyone else?
No, I was just going to say thank you very much. I've got to go now.
All right. Thanks, Abby. Lovely to meet you.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. Are we done? Any more questions? Okay, thank you so much for being here. I'm a bit like, because I can't see it because I've got the slides. I'm like, did I press record when you all joined? Oh, I did. Good. Because I was like halfway through, I was like, shit, am I recording this? I did it once before with a class and I'd forgotten that I'd set it up to record to the cloud, not my computer. So it goes straight into Zoom. Finished the class, the thing didn't pop up to say converting because it wouldn't, because it went into the cloud. I went and told my husband, I was like, I'm going to have to record this whole class again. I haven't recorded it. And about 10 minutes later, I got an email popped up that was like, your recording is now in the cloud. Oh my God. Okay, it's been so lovely to have you all here. My lovely assistant will send you out the replay first thing in the morning because that's when he does his stuff. If anyone's got any further questions or follow-up stuff, just reach out. Like if you reply to my emails, it comes into my inbox. Those of you on the replay, I would love to hear your takeaways and what you found from the class. Hope to see you all at Find Your Voice on Monday. And I will speak to you all soon. Oh, Louise, also reach out when you want to do your one-on-one. Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Louise. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.